Welcome to the SDH College Showcase, where we take you through all of the action here in the Southeast in the week that was, get you ready for the week that will be before we catch back up with each other in 7 days' time. We'll go through the SEC, the ACC, the SoCon, the SunBelt, and also take you into Division II, Division III NAIA with Georgia Gwinnett College and with Oglethorpe and get you caught up with them as well. Let's start things off in the SEC over the past 7 days. And going back to Sunday, October the 2nd, LSU with a 3-2 win over Kentucky. Texas A&M with a 1-0 win over Rice. As we work our way in through the week in and of itself, you go through and get to the midweek before you end up with any other action. And on Thursday, number 9 Arkansas knocked off Florida by the score of 1-0. LSU and Texas A&M even at 2. Auburn over Kentucky by the score of 3-1. Tennessee knocks off Missouri by the score of 2-0. South Carolina and Mississippi State. South Carolina wins that one 1-0. Georgia and Vanderbilt tied at 1. And then number 4 Alabama versus number 20 Ole Miss. In that one, Alabama was down early 1-0. They came back for the win. And then after the match, courtesy of our friends at the SEC Network and ESPN Plus, you get some post-match about how Bama did not waver. Felicia Knox was the post-game interview for the University of Alabama broadcast over at ESPN Plus and SEC Network Plus, and she broke it down after being down 1-0.
Felicia, this is Roger alongside Haley. Congratulations on a great performance. Let's first talk about this team having no panic. Down 1 goal to Ole Miss in the 12th minute. What was the mindset for your group to battle back?
I think we didn't change anything. Our goal was to win the game, and if it's a goal down, we're tied, anything, we are going to stick to the game plan and do what we know we can do, and that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, you guys certainly did everything you could, and it was well within your control. I want to ask you a couple questions about your specific play. Watching you last year to this year, you were just playing with so much more confidence. The service into the box is impeccable.
Thank you.
What did you do in the offseason, or is everything just kind of clicking?
Well, coming into college, I played a little bit deeper in the field, so over the 3 years, I've been playing higher up the field, and I've started to become more comfortable in that position. This summer, I was able to play with the KC Current a little bit, and that definitely helped my game speed up, think faster, play faster, and everything. Honestly, I got really lucky and was very, very excited to do that and very privileged to do that. So other than that, nothing really, but like I said, every time it's the people around me. I don't get assists unless the people score goals. So I can serve balls into the box all day, but if Macy's not getting her head on it, if Riley's not getting a foot on it, if things like that don't happen, I don't get assists. So that's it.
Well said. You're spoken like a true center midfielder, the true distributor on the field. So it looks great. Congratulations.
Thank you. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Knox with a goal and 2 assists, and the 1 shot on goal. It's her 9th straight game with an assist, and that leads Division I athletics. So getting into the standings and looking at how things are stacked up here in the SEC East, Tennessee with a record of 4-1, an overall record of 8-3-1. South Carolina's at 3-2. Vandy's at 2-1-2. Georgia is at 2-2-1. Each of them have 8 wins on the season. Missouri now 1-3-1 in the East. They have an overall record of 4-6-2. Kentucky and Florida both 0-5 in the SEC East. Kentucky with a record of 7-6. Florida with a record of 2-10. In the West, Alabama, they've won their first 5 matches in conference. They have a record of 12-1-1. Arkansas with a record of 4-1. They're at 9-2-1. Mississippi State 3-1-1, as is LSU. Mississippi State with 9 wins on the year. LSU with 8. Ole Miss, after the loss to number 4 Alabama, 3-2 in conference play, 9-2-2 overall. Auburn 1-3-1 with a record of 5-3-5. Texas A&M with a record of 0-4-1 overall. They are 6-5-3. Now, getting you ready for the weekend that will be on Sunday. Very, very busy day. UK is at South Carolina. That one is at 2 o'clock. Texas A&M at number 20 Ole Miss, also at 2 Eastern, along with Alabama number 4 at LSU in Baton Rouge. 2 o'clock, Florida is at Missouri in Columbia. 3 o'clock Eastern, Vandy is at number 9 Arkansas. And Mississippi State is at Auburn at 3 o'clock. Number 19, Tennessee, is at Georgia. That one is at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Working your way through the next 7 days, getting you into Thursday the 13th, you have the one game. It is Mississippi State at number 20 Ole Miss, so you've got Egg Bowl in Oxford. That one will be on SEC Network. And also working your way into the weekend, on Friday the 14th, you have 4 games, all on SEC Network Plus. Missouri is at Georgia. LSU is at number 19 Tennessee. Auburn is at Texas A&M. South Carolina is at Vanderbilt. And that sets us up for the week that is and the week that was in the SEC when it comes to soccer. Going on over into the ACC and how things are for them right now on the men's side in soccer. Let's take a peek at standings and the week that was when it came to the schedule. Louisville's Kamara, UVA's Wieland are an ACC men's soccer player of the week honors for week number 5. Boubacar Kamara selected men's offensive player of the week. Virginia senior Andreas Uehlen named defensive player of the week. That was for week 5. You also have action heading your way for week number 6 as well. And we'll get you into the scores and the standings for men's soccer first when it comes to the ACC. In the Atlantic, Syracuse has 12 division points in the Atlantic with a record of 4-1. Wake, 9 points at 3-2. Louisville with 7, as well as Clemson with 2 wins and 1 draw. Clemson has played one more match. BC at 1-3-1 has 4 points. NC State at 1-4 has 3 points. In the Coastal, Duke undefeated in their first 5 at 3-0-2. They have 11 points. Virginia's at 10 with 3-1-1. North Carolina and Pitt, identical 2-2-1 records. Notre Dame is 2-2 with 6 points. Virginia Tech at 0-5 out of the blocks on the men's side. That's your soccer standings for the Coastal and for the Atlantic. Let's take a look at the schedule and get you geared up for what has happened and what will happen in the ACC. In the week that was, very, very busy time. Back on October 1st, Duke over Wake Forest by the score of 3-2. Clemson on Monday knocked off North Carolina in Chapel Hill by the score of 1-0. Tuesday, the traditionally one of the larger days during the week, Denver knocked off UVA in Charlottesville 1-0. Wake won at home 1-0 over Jacksonville. Cornell beat Syracuse in Syracuse 2-1. Duke shut out Howard 2-0. NC State shut out High Point 2-0. Virginia Tech got a win over East Tennessee State by the score of 2-0 in Johnson City. On Wednesday, Indiana beat Notre Dame by the score of 1-0 in Bloomington. Friday night, very, very busy night, 5 matches. North Carolina in Chapel Hill shut out Virginia Tech 2-0. BC 2-0 over NC State in Newton, Mass. Goalless draw, Duke and Virginia in Charlottesville. Syracuse over Wake Forest by the score of 2-0 in Syracuse, and Clemson and Pitt had a 1-1 draw. One match on your Saturday, Louisville and Notre Dame in South Bend. That one's at 7 o'clock on ACC Network Extra. Looking at the week that will be, Loyola, Maryland is at Syracuse on Monday night at 6. That one's on ACC and X as well. Denver continues their Eastern swing by playing Pitt in Pittsburgh Monday night at 7. Tuesday, big night, 6 matches on the men's side. Wake is at William & Mary. That's on Flow FC. Evansville and Louisville at 7. All these others are at 7 o'clock Eastern. Evansville at Louisville on ACC Network Extra. Brown and BC on ACC Network Extra. NC State at the College of Charleston on Flow Sports. UNC Greensboro's at Clemson on ACC Network Extra. Same for VCU and North Carolina. Friday night, 4 matches. It is Pitt at Virginia Tech. Notre Dame at Duke at 6 is on ACC Network as the first match of the doubleheader. Syracuse at Louisville's at 7. And North Carolina takes on NC State on ACC Network. Also on the board when you're going through all of your action on the women's side. You're looking at women's soccer now and going through all of the stats and the schedules. It is women's soccer standings. Remember, it's all one division when it comes to the ACC. Florida State top of the ladder at 5-0. Pitt and Duke at 4-1. A lot of folks at 3-2. Notre Dame, Virginia, North Carolina, Virginia Tech. Wake Forest, NC State, they are at 2-3, along with Clemson, Syracuse, BC, Louisville, and Miami are all at 1 and 4. So let's take a peek at the schedule and get you from where you're going to from where you've been to where you're going. And in the week that was, very, very light action because of fall break. Going back to last Saturday, Florida State 1-0 over Miami and Coral Gables. Pitt beat Louisville by the score of 1-0 in Pittsburgh. Virginia Tech 2-1 over North Carolina in Blacksburg. Sunday, 2 matches. Wake 2-0 winners over Syracuse and Winston-Salem. Virginia over Duke by the score of 1-0. Thursday, that's when a lot of your matches happen. 7 of them, as a matter of fact. That leads us into the weekend. BC 1-0 over Syracuse. Miami 3-1 over Virginia Tech. Duke 2-1 winners over Wake. North Carolina 4-0 over Pitt. Clemson on the road at Louisville 1-1. Florida State 1-0 at Virginia. Notre Dame at home beats NC State by the score of 3-0. Getting into the week that will be, your schedule. Florida State, Notre Dame, that's at noon on Sunday. That one's on ESPNU from South Bend. BC and Louisville is also on the board at noon. 1 o'clock on ACC Network Extra. The rest of these matches are on ACC Network Extra. 1 o'clock, NC State, North Carolina. Miami at Wake. Pitt at Duke. Virginia Tech at Clemson. Syracuse and Virginia's at 2 o'clock in Charlottesville on ACC Network Extra. That gets us to Thursday and Friday. Duke at Florida State, 6 o'clock on the ACC Network, was part of their doubleheader. Virginia Tech is the back end of the doubleheader in Blacksburg, starting at 8. Friday night football. Wake at North Carolina on ACC Network Extra. That one's at 7, as is Clemson and Syracuse. That gets us into what's going on in the ACC. Next stop is the SoCon. And looking at men's soccer, you have UNCG ranked in 2 polls right now. They're ranked as high as 13 or in the top 25, depending on if you look at Top Drawer or CSN. Looking at the standings right now on the men's side. UNCG, 1 win in conference, 7-1-3 overall. East Tennessee State, 1-0. Mercer and Wofford, 1 draw, and Furman is 0-1, as well as VMI on the men's side. Let's get into the matches that were to get you ready for the matches that will be. And in your composite schedules, as you're following along, it was last Saturday, Wofford and Mercer, goalless draw. Furman and UNCG won 5-1 in Greensboro. Lipscomb, midweek, beat Mercer by the score of 3-1. But here's a highlight from the Mercer side of things involving Dylan Gaither, courtesy of our friends at SoCon Sports and ESPN+.
They should win the Atlantic Sun and get that automatic bid. If not, they should be up for a bid. Gaither with an opportunity, scores!
Virginia Tech over East Tennessee State by the score of 2-0. Furman and USC Upstate, a goalless draw. Midweek, Elon and UNCG got the win by the score of 2-0 in Greensboro. That sets up your action for the week that will be. North Carolina, Greensboro at VMI at 3:30. And you have that one. You've got East Tennessee State and Wofford at 6 on ESPN+, as well as Mercer visiting Furman and Greenville at 7. Tuesday, UNCG and Clemson, VMI and Liberty both at 7 o'clock. Wednesday, Furman is at Davidson, and that sets us up for the week that will be. Looking at women's soccer and how things are currently going on in conference. Looking at your standings in the SoCon, it is Chattanooga with 4 wins in their first 5. They're ahead of Samford at 2-1-2, Furman at 2-1-1, East Tennessee State at 2-2-1, the Citadels at 2-2, Mercer 1-1-3, Wofford 1-1-2, UNCG 1-2-1, along with Western Carolina. VMI has only won 1 of their first 14. They are 0-4 right now in conference. Getting you ready for the schedule and the women's soccer players of the week that have been announced. Mormon and Doss honored last time out. It is a Mercer freshman forward Jada Mormon, Wofford junior keeper Caroline Doss, named Southern Conference Women's Offensive Defensive Players of the Week, respectively, for all competitions, September 27 through October 3. Mormon, Player of the Week for the second time this year, first coming back on August the 30th. After starting one match coming off the bench and another last week as Mercer had the win and the draw. Mercer and East Tennessee played to the draw on the 29th. The Bears had a 2-1 win over Western Carolina. And in the contest, Mormon started 3 shots against Western, came off the bench, scored the first goal in the match in the 22nd minute off a corner, and scored her second goal of the contest in the 31st minute to put the Bears ahead 2-0. Doss played all 90 minutes for Wofford as they played to a goalless draw. a clean sheet in their lone match of the week versus Furman on the 29th. Native Greensboro had 9 saves against Furman, faced a season-high 20 shots in the match, currently leads the conference in shutouts with 5 this year. So that is your look at how things are on the women's side when it comes to standings. Let's get you into all the activity from the week that was, get you ready for the week that will be. Chattanooga over UNCG by the score of 1-0. Samford 5-0 over VMI. Mercer the 2-1 win at home against Western Carolina. Monday, East Tennessee State over the Citadel 1-0. Thursday, Citadel 2-0 at Furman. Mercer Wofford the goalless draw. Friday night football, East Tennessee State 3-0 over VMI in Johnson City. Samford and Chattanooga by the score of 1-1. And UNCG and Western Carolina the goalless draw. That sets us up for the week that will be. VMI at Western. All these are Sunday afternoon at 2 o'clock Eastern. Mercer, Furman, UNCG, East Tennessee State, Citadel, and Wofford. Friday, October 14th. It's another 5-match day. Mercer at the Citadel at 3 o'clock. Wofford at VMI at 4. Western Carolina, Chattanooga at 5. East Tennessee State, Samford, and Furman and UNCG are at 7 o'clock. So that sets us up for the SunBelt and what we've seen from Georgia State and Georgia Southern. On the women's side, right now the standings, James Madison 4-0-1, Georgia State, Georgia Southern, both 2-1-2. Each have won their last match out. Old Dominion at 2-1, App State at 2-3, Marshall and Coastal Carolina each at 1-3-1. Western Division, Arkansas State out of the blocks have won 4 of their first 5. South Alabama's at 3-0-2. Texas State 3-1-1. Southern Miss, Louisiana Monroe, Troy each at 1-3-1. Louisiana is at 0-3-2. Setting you up for the schedule and from the week that was and get you into the week that will be. Going back over the last 7 days, very, very busy time in the conference in the overall. But getting back to last Saturday in soccer in general, looking at on the women's side, Texas State over Southern Miss by the score of 1-0. Marshall and ULM a goalless draw in Monroe. Men's soccer, South Carolina, West Virginia, goalless draw. Georgia State over Georgia Southern by the score of 4-2. Highlights from that one coming up in just a bit. Kentucky 3-1 over James Madison as well. Sunday, women's soccer, Arkansas State over Georgia Southern 1-0. Coastal and Louisiana, a 2-2 draw. Troy 3-2 in Atlanta over Georgia State. South Alabama, Old Dominion, a 2-2 draw. Also getting into the midweek on Tuesday, Robert Morris goes to Marshall, loses by the score of 3-1. Busy day on Thursday for the women's side. Ark State wins 3-1 against Louisiana. Georgia State at App State. Georgia State gets the win 1-0. Georgia Southern 2-0 over Marshall in Huntington, West Virginia. Southern Miss loses to Coastal 4-1. James Madison 3-1 at Texas State. South Alabama 4-1 hosting Louisiana Monroe. Old Dominion 1 and Troy 0. That one was in Troy on Thursday night. Also setting you up for Friday night football, Coastal Carolina, Georgia State. That was a 2-2 draw in Atlanta. Set you up for the week that will be. Saturday, 6 o'clock starts. West Virginia, Old Dominion, Gardner-Webb, James Madison, Marshall, and South Carolina. Women's soccer, heavy tilt. 7 matches. South Alabama, James Madison, App State, Georgia Southern, Marshall, Georgia State, Coastal Carolina, Old Dominion, Ark State, Louisiana Monroe, Texas State, and Louisiana Troy, and Southern Miss. Men's soccer on your Sunday. Georgia Southern is at Kentucky, 6 o'clock Eastern Time. In the midweek Tuesday, men's soccer, James Madison at American Tuesday afternoon. Incarnate Word is at Georgia State. That one's on ESPN+. Lehigh is at West Virginia. Men's soccer Wednesday, Dayton is at Kentucky. And that gets us into Friday night football on the women's side. Old Dominion at App State. James Madison is at Marshall. James Madison, Georgia Southern, South Carolina, and Coastal Carolina. That is your action on the men's side in the SunBelt. And wrapping things up, we'll spend some time with Georgia Gwinnett College, and we'll spend some time with Oglethorpe just to kind of get you through and get your schedules all squared away. Once again, for Oglethorpe, you go to gopetrels.com, and you can see what is going on with Oglethorpe women's soccer in Jackson, Mississippi. It is a night game for the women's side as they take on Millsaps in the SAA. And after a game in the midweek against Emory on the women's side for the Stormy Petrels. Looking at how things have gone so far in women's soccer. Remember, it's a year of transition, so they had a draw at Millsaps to work their way through. And their most recent match at 3-5-2, 0-2-1 in the SAA. In the week that was, you had the match at Swanee that was against Swanee at Oglethorpe, losing 1-0. Rough night at Emory, losing 7-0 in the midweek. And then at Millsaps, a goalless draw there at Millsaps College in Jackson, Mississippi. On the way back, it is going to be a game at Birmingham Southern as Oglethorpe is working their way back to Atlanta. That's Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock. And then there's a game on Friday against Hendrix College at Oglethorpe. That one is a 5 o'clock kick on Senior Day for Oglethorpe. Oglethorpe and Hendrix in neighboring Brookhaven for Oglethorpe. On the men's side of things, under head coach John Aiken, the way things are right now, suffered their first home loss of the season in a 1-0 defeat to Swanee. Right now they're 5-5-1. 2-1 in conference, and looking at the last 7 or 8 days or so, it was at Emory. It was a 3-0 loss against the Division III side, and then at Millsaps they won 6-0 in Jackson, Mississippi. Once again, they are touring with the women, and they will be at Birmingham Southern on the 9th. That one is a 3:30 Eastern time kick, and then the Hendrix College Senior Day matches on Friday night the 14th. Theirs is at 7 o'clock before their 2 matches remaining in the regular season in the SAA. Going to Georgia Gwinnett College, keeping an eye on what's going on there. Kareem Tamimi has taken his game to another level in the senior season. 2-time honorable mention NAIA All-American, has climbed the program's career scoring list. Had a hat trick against Mobile on September 21st, the first 3-goal match since 2019. Tamimi's on the verge of matching Tom Butler's school record of 28 career goals from the inaugural 2012 season, 3 points shy of tying Martin Lugo's record of 70 career points from 2012 to 2015. He's had a point in all 8 matches so far for Georgia Gwinnett College this year. Looking at the schedule on the men's side, 6-1-1 out of the blocks, and their last match was back on September 21st. They're back at it at Fisk in Nashville, Tennessee, before the CAC Classic is next weekend with Viterbo and Bellevue in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, as they are at about the halfway point of their season on the men's side. On the women's side, looking at the schedule for the Grizzlies, they're at 2-4-5 and have yet to play a conference game. Next match for them is going to be on the 11th after playing at Southeastern in Lakeland, Florida, losing by the score of 2-0. Next match for them is on Tuesday as they host Point at the Grizzly Soccer Complex. Go to ggcathletics.com for everything that has to pertain to all of the Grizzlies and Georgia Gwinnett College. Very, very busy time going on here in college. That's your SDH Soccer Showcase. If you are a college soccer showcase, if you are near one of these teams and one of these matches and can go hang out, support your local schools and the efforts that they are making to continue to grow the game on the collegiate level. If you're in market and can't be, you follow along on your local providers and your web. Also, the same if you are out of market and want to continue following along as well with your favorite teams. So for everybody here at SDH, that's your college showcase. Play it safe, everybody. We'll see you next time.